I stood in that glittering ballroom, wearing a server's uniform, while my former business partner married into old money. When he snapped his fingers at me like I was nothing, I smiled, because tucked in my pocket was the document that would turn his perfect wedding into a criminal investigation. But here's what nobody saw coming, not even me. The bride wasn't just a victim in this story. She was my accomplice. Before this story unfolds, hit that subscribe button, because what you're about to hear will make you believe in perfect timing. Trust me, you'll want to share this with everyone who's ever been underestimated. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. My name is Naomi Sterling, and if you'd told me 5 years ago that I'd be serving champagne at my former business partner's wedding, I would have laughed in your face. But there I was, 34 years old, wearing a crisp black and white uniform, carrying a silver tray through the Ashford Grand Hotel's crystal ballroom. The chandeliers above cost more than most people's houses. Ice sculptures, shaped like swans, melted under 1,000 candles. 400 guests, each worth millions, sipped Dom Perignon and pretended to care about love. At the center of it all stood Damien Whitmore, my former partner, my former friend, the man who stole everything from me and turned it into a billion-dollar empire. Designer tuxedo, perfect hair, that confident smile that made investors open their checkbooks. Next to him stood Cordelia Van Straten, the bride. Old money, the kind of family with portraits in museums. She wore a dress that probably cost 6 figures, diamonds dripping from her neck. I moved through the cocktail hour with practiced efficiency, weaving between tech moguls and society elites. My hands steady, my smile polite and forgettable. That's the thing about being service staff at events like this. You become invisible. People talk around you like you're furniture, and that night, that invisibility was exactly what I needed. Until Damien saw me. Our eyes met across the marble floor, and for a fraction of a second, I saw recognition flicker. 5 years might have passed, but some faces you don't forget, especially the face of the person whose dreams you crushed. I watched his eyes travel from my face to my uniform, and something cold settled into his features. Not guilt, not remorse, satisfaction. He raised his hand and snapped his fingers, actually snapped them, like I was a dog. "You," he called out, loud enough that nearby guests turned. "Black girl, these glasses have water spots." The champagne flutes were crystal clear. We both knew it, but that wasn't the point. The point was power. The point was reminding me and everyone within earshot exactly where I stood in his world now. "I'll get fresh ones immediately, sir," I said, my voice steady despite the rage burning in my chest. Cordelia laughed, a sound like breaking glass. She leaned toward her bridesmaids and whispered something about the help these days, just loud enough for me to hear. The guests nearby pretended to be fascinated by their phones, anything but the casual cruelty happening right in front of them. I collected the perfectly clean glasses and walked away with my head high. Behind me, Damien said something that made his friends laugh. I kept walking, kept breathing, kept my face neutral, because they didn't know what I knew. This entire night was about to become the worst mistake of Damien Whitmore's life. Let me take you back 5 years. Damien and I were partners in every sense of the word. We met at MIT, both brilliant, both hungry, both determined to change the world. I had the vision. I'd developed an artificial intelligence algorithm that could predict market patterns with unprecedented accuracy. Revolutionary, beautiful. We were so close to making it. Thornton Capital wanted to meet with us, $50 million on the table. It would have changed everything. The night before that meeting, Damien came to me with papers, updated partnership agreements, he said. Just formalities for the investors, technical stuff. I trusted him. God, I trusted him. So I signed without reading them. The next morning, I walked into that conference room as a partner and walked out as nothing. Damien had restructured everything overnight. He owned 95%. I owned 0. The fine print I'd signed stripped me of everything. My algorithm, my equity, my future. The investors loved him. They barely looked at me during the presentation. I confronted him afterward in the parking garage. His words still echo in my mind. Business isn't personal, Naomi. You're brilliant, but you're not boardroom material. People invest in people who look like, well, like me. This is just how the world works. He offered me $100,000 as severance. Like that could replace years of my life. I refused. I threatened to sue. His lawyers buried me in paperwork for 18 months. Motion after motion, delay after delay, filing fees I couldn't afford. I ran out of money before I ran out of fight. Meanwhile, Nextech went public. $800 million valuation. Damien became a billionaire at 33. Magazine covers, TED Talks, Forbes interviews, where he talked about building something from nothing. From nothing. As if I had never existed, I became a cautionary tale, the brilliant black woman who got outsmarted, who didn't read the fine print, who trusted the wrong person. I worked odd jobs to pay rent, taught coding classes online, watched from the sidelines as my algorithm changed the world, and made Damien richer every single day. But I never stopped digging, never stopped searching, because men like Damien always have secrets, always cut corners, always believe they're too smart to get caught. 6 months ago, I found what I was looking for. A former Nextech employee reached out through an encrypted channel. They'd kept copies of everything, and in those files, I found the truth. Nextech's AI algorithm, my algorithm, was being sold to Helios Defense Systems, a private military contractor with a dark reputation. They were using my creation for illegal civilian surveillance, the kind that violates every privacy law on the books. And Damien knew. I found the emails. I found the wire transfers, millions in kickbacks flowing into offshore accounts. I found contracts that explicitly mentioned bypassing federal regulations. I found everything. And then I found out he was getting married, here, at the Ashford Grand Hotel, to Cordelia Van Straten, whose family wealth traced back to the Gilded Age. It was going to be the society wedding of the year. I didn't stumble into this catering job. I orchestrated it, applied through an agency, worked events for months to build credibility. I waited, planned, prepared, because revenge isn't about anger. It's about precision. It's about timing. The dinner service began, and I moved between tables with mechanical efficiency, invisible again, until I reached Damien's table. He was holding court, telling stories that made his friends roar with laughter. One of them, Preston, made a racist joke, the kind that starts with, "I'm not racist, but..." Damien laughed hardest. Then he looked at me, standing there with a wine bottle, and said, "What's wrong? Can't you take a joke?" The table went silent, that performative kind of quiet where everyone wants to see what happens next. Cordelia's eyes lit up with malicious glee. "Damien, darling, remember when you told me about your unfortunate first business partner? The one who tried to sue you and lost. Is this her?" 8 pairs of eyes turned to me like I was a specimen under glass. Damien's smirk widened. "Ancient history, sweetheart. Some people are meant to build empires, others are meant to serve them. That's just nature's order." Someone at the table actually laughed. I felt something crack inside my chest. 5 years of suppressed rage, of swallowed pride, of nights crying while Damien's face smiled from magazine covers. But my face remained calm. "Will there be anything else, sir?" "No," he said, dismissing me with a wave. "You can go." I walked away, on shaking legs, my vision tunneling. In the service hallway, I pulled out my phone. My hands trembled. I looked at the message I'd typed hours ago, but hadn't sent. The one addressed to the FBI field office in Boston. The one with attachments containing every piece of evidence I'd gathered. Bank statements, emails, contracts, wire transfers, everything. My finger hovered over the send button. This was it. Once I sent this, there was no going back. But before I could hit send, someone grabbed my arm. I spun around and found myself face to face with Cordelia Van Straten, still in her wedding dress, but her makeup was running. Mascara streaked down her perfect cheeks. Her eyes were red and swollen. She was crying. "Please, she whispered, her voice breaking. Please tell me you have proof. I stared at her, completely blindsided. This was the woman who'd laughed at me 20 minutes ago. What? She looked over her shoulder, then pulled me into a storage room and locked the door. Proof, she repeated urgently, about what he's doing. The illegal surveillance, the money laundering, all of it. Please tell me you can prove it. My mind raced. How do you know about? Because I've been investigating him for 3 months, she said, pulling out her phone. On the screen was a folder containing documents, different from mine, but pointing to the same crimes. I'm not just some society bride, Naomi. I'm a federal prosecutor, or I was, until I took a leave of absence to marry the man I thought I loved. The world tilted sideways. She sat down on a box, her expensive dress pooling around her. I've been building a case against him, quietly, carefully, but I don't have enough yet. The defense contracts, I can't access those records without a warrant, and I can't get a warrant without probable cause. I've been going in circles for months, and then tonight I saw you. I saw how he looked at you, how he treated you, and I remembered the name from his old legal files, Naomi Sterling, the partner he screwed over, and I thought, maybe you'd want revenge enough to have done the digging I couldn't. I looked at this woman, this federal prosecutor in a wedding dress, and made a decision that would change both our lives. I showed her everything. She read through it with focused intensity. Her eyes widened. Her hands started shaking. This is it, she whispered. This is everything I needed. With this, I can get warrants. I can freeze his accounts. She looked up at me. But Naomi, if we do this now, tonight, at the wedding, it's going to be a circus. Media everywhere. Your face in every newspaper. Are you ready for that? I thought about Damien's smirk, his casual cruelty, the way he'd erased me from my own story. I've been invisible for 5 years, I said. I think it's time people saw me again. Cordelia smiled through her tears. Then let's burn his empire to the ground. We spent the next hour coordinating. Cordelia made calls while I went back to serving, maintaining my cover. She contacted the U.S. attorney, who contacted the FBI. With our combined evidence, they had everything they needed. The toasts began. Damien took the microphone, gave a charming speech about love and partnership. He talked about leaving behind people who couldn't keep up. He looked directly at me while saying it, still enjoying his power trip. The guests applauded. Cordelia stood beside him, playing her part perfectly. And then the ballroom doors opened, and 6 FBI agents walked in. You could have heard a pin drop. 400 wealthy people froze. Damien's smile faltered. The lead agent walked straight to the head table. Damien Whitmore, you're under arrest for violations of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, money laundering, conspiracy to commit fraud, and illegal weapons trafficking. Damien's face went white. This is absurd. This is my wedding. You can't. We have warrants, the agent said, pulling out handcuffs. That's when Cordelia stepped forward. She pulled off her wedding veil and looked at Damien with cold fury. I'm Special Prosecutor Cordelia Van Straten, Department of Justice, Criminal Division, and I've been building a case against you for 3 months. Damien staggered backward. You, what? I found your burner phone, Cordelia said, her voice carrying across the silent ballroom. I know everything. And when I realized I couldn't access the evidence I needed legally, I waited. I waited to see if anyone else was looking, anyone else you'd hurt. And tonight, I found her. She gestured to me. I walked forward, no longer invisible. My name is Dr. Naomi Sterling, I said into the microphone. 5 years ago, I co-created the technology that made this man a billionaire. He stole it from me, and then he sold it to military contractors to illegally surveil American citizens. I connected my phone to the presentation screen. Every document appeared in crystal clarity: banking records, emails, contracts that violated federal law. Damien lunged for me, but the agents grabbed him. You bitch, he snarled. I'm the one who built everything you claim to create. I cut him off. and I'm the one who's going to watch you lose it all." Cordelia looked at him with disgust. "This wedding is over. The marriage license was never filed. I made sure of that. You have nothing from me. No alibi, no spousal privilege, nothing." And then she fainted. Not from shock, but from sheer relief. The weight of 3 months of pretending, of playing a role, of lying to everyone she knew. It all caught up at once. Her maid of honor caught her before she hit the floor. The ballroom erupted in chaos. Guests scrambling for exits. Reporters suddenly had the story of the year. Cameras flashing, people shouting. Damien being led away in handcuffs, still protesting his innocence. And me, standing in the center of it all, finally visible. The aftermath came in waves. Damien's arrest made front-page news. Nextech's stock crashed. The board voted him out within 72 hours. Federal investigations expanded, leading to indictments of 17 executives. Victims filed a class action lawsuit. And I was no longer a ghost. I was a witness, a victim, a whistleblower. My story was told in every major outlet. The tech industry suddenly wanted to apologize. Cordelia became the lead prosecutor on the case. The trial took 8 months. Damien was convicted on all counts. 23 years in federal prison. Nextech settled for $150 million. My name was restored to the patents. But more than that, I got my voice back. I started Sterling Technologies, focused on ethical AI development. Cordelia joined my board of directors. We became real friends. The kind built on mutual respect and shared sacrifice. People ask me if I feel guilty for ruining a wedding. I don't. I didn't ruin anything. I revealed the truth. Damien humiliated me because he thought I was powerless. He forgot that patience is its own kind of power. That invisible doesn't mean weak. And karma doesn't rush. It waits for the perfect moment. It waits for you to feel invincible, untouchable, safe. And then it reminds you that everything built on lies will eventually crumble. Today, I'm the CEO of a company valued at $200 million. I mentor young women in tech. I tell them to read the fine print, to trust their instincts, to never let anyone erase them from their own story. And sometimes, late at night, I think about that moment when Damien saw the handcuffs, when he realized the woman he'd dismissed as the help had orchestrated his downfall. That moment was worth everything. If this story showed you that justice might be delayed, but it's never denied, smash that like button. Subscribe for more stories where the underdog gets the last word. Share this, because someone in your life needs to know that their moment is coming too. Drop a comment. What would you have done in my position? I'll see you in the next one. Remember, your story isn't over until you say it is.